Welcome to the Coherent Life. I'm Ty. We're going to kick back and talk about survival mode, coherence, and creating your life on purpose through real conversations about things like relationships, money, health, and the patterns that keep repeating in everyday life. If you already know that thoughts create reality but keep getting pulled into old patterns, stress, or overwhelm, you're in the right place. Today, I want to talk about a framework I created and something that has become the foundation for literally everything in my life. Stop, drop, create coherence. And I'm going to tell you why I value this process so much. Because when your body feels safe, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easy, but because you stop living from fear, stress, and chaos, and you start living from choice. There was a period in my life where I was giving more than I actually had the capacity to give. I was in a platonic co-parenting relationship, and the kid's parent said to me, "You don't have what it takes to do this." And nobody wants to hear that. So I took it as motivation, like, okay, I'll try harder, I'll be more, I'll give more. So I tried harder and harder for years until I didn't have anything left. No energy, no clarity, no more ideas. We were both exhausted. What I didn't understand back then is that not having the capacity for a role in a relationship does not mean you're bad or wrong. It doesn't mean that you don't care. It means something is mismatched. I also want to name something here that feels important. At the time, people depended on me. I was co parenting. I wasn't just showing up for myself, others relied on me. And what I didn't have back then were tools that I have now. I didn't understand nervous system regulation. I didn't know how to create coherence or build capacity in a sustainable way. So the only way I knew how to show up was through self sacrifice, giving more than I had over and over again. Looking back, I can see how that was codependent, not because I was weak or didn't care, but because I had learned that love meant bending over backwards, even when it cost me everything. For me, codependence was a form of survival mode, a way my nervous system tried to stay connected, stay loved, and stay safe by overgiving. And here's the part I really want to be clear about. Giving more than you have the capacity to give doesn't help. It harms. It drains you. It creates resentment. It makes you reactive. And eventually, it harms the relationship too. Because after a while, all I was giving was bitchy. What I've learned since this, when people depend on you as a parent, a partner, a caregiver, a helper, coherence becomes even more important, not less. Because without coherence, showing up beyond capacity turns into self erasure. And with coherence, it becomes possible to show up consistently, responsibly, and with care without disappearing yourself in the process. I didn't struggle because I cared too little. I struggled because I cared deeply without the tools to support myself at the same time. When I look back at that version of me, what I was misunderstanding was that I was in fight or flight. I needed to create coherence. From survival mode, I could not think myself into being the person I wanted to be. I was burnt out. I was shut down. And from that place, I could only create more of that. And I want to say that slowly because it's such a big part of what this podcast is about. From survival mode, you don't just create less, you create more survival, more stress, more chaos, more shutdown, more stuckness. That's why I get so passionate when I hear people say, just manifest what you want, just journal, just say affirmations. Because to someone that is in survival mode, they are missing this foundational understanding. Can your nervous system hold the reality you're trying to create? It wasn't until I was able to create coherence in small pockets, and from that place, visualize, from that place, practice affirmations, that I could access the inspired action it would take to receive what I was manifesting. And that inspired action turned the tide. And only from coherence was I able to attract and receive what I had been manifesting for years. So when I say coherence is the foundation, I mean it. And I want to make this practical because survival mode doesn't always look like some huge dramatic crisis. Sometimes it looks like normal life. For me, survival mode looked like being defensive. It looked like being exhausted. As soon as I woke up, I was counting down to when I could go to sleep again. I was consistently sick. And if you're listening and that's you, I just want you to hear this clearly. That doesn't mean that you're lazy. It means that your system is overloaded. In relationships, survival looked like fighting. It looked like having practically no money, but being overworked. It looked like being consistently sick and having no energy. I also want to name something briefly because it matters. For many of us, survival patterns don't just come from what we've lived through personally, they're inherited. Transgenerational trauma is the way stress, fear, and survival strategies get passed down through families and lineages. I'm not going to unpack that fully here because that's an entire episode on its own. But what is important to know in the context of this episode is that coherence is key to healing transgenerational trauma. These patterns don't shift through effort or insight alone. They soften when the body feels safe and the nervous system is regulated. And that's the part that's hard for people to wrap their minds around because they're like, but I know thoughts create reality. I could just manifest anything I want. And I'm like, yes. And if your body is reacting like you need to run, fight, or hide to stay alive, it is going to be very hard to create anything beyond that frequency. So let me define coherence in the way that I'm using it here. Coherence, as used here, is the opposite of survival mode: fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. It's when your body is regulated enough that you can respond instead of react. It's when you have access to yourself again, your breath, your clarity, your choices, your capacity. It's not something you can fake. This is not fake it till you make it. You cannot fake coherence because coherence is physiological. It's either happening or it's not. And the beautiful thing is, you can practice it. This is a framework I teach: stop, drop, create coherence. Here's what I mean. Stop. Stop is the moment you recognize I'm activated, but I'm not in a life or death situation. And that right there is already huge because most people don't stop. We live in a push through culture. It's normalized not to stop. It's normalized to push through. And pushing through creates burnout and more chaos in the body and mind. Drop. Drop means drop into your body, drop into the present moment. Because when you're activated, you're usually not here. You're in a memory. You're in a future worry. You're in a story. Drop is coming back to now. Create coherence. This is where you do something that actually shifts your state. An evidence-based practice, a coherence creating exercise, something that brings you out of survival mode and back online. Let me give you a real example. Sometimes I have memories from different times in my life that still activate me. And when they come up in my mind, I can feel myself begin to slowly shut down, like my system is trying to protect me from feeling the emergency of it all again in the moment. And I notice it in my body. My breath becomes shallow, my shoulders become tense, my jaw becomes clenched. And when I notice that, I stop everything I'm doing. I drop into my body and take a long, slow, deep breath. And then I practice a coherence creating exercise until I feel myself coming into coherence. And here's what changes when I do that. I don't lose myself. I don't spiral. I regain my ability to respond. And that's why this matters, because without coherence, a memory can hijack your whole day. A comment can hijack your whole week. A stressful situation can activate you into making choices from fear without even realizing that you're doing it. Coherence gives you your power back. Your power to choose what you want to think, feel, and do about the situation at hand. One of the beliefs I had to let go of for this work to actually function is I don't have time. And I get it. People are busy. People are carrying a lot. But here's what I know now. Someone who is in coherence moves more efficiently and gets more done in less time because you're not fighting yourself. You're not trying to think through everything with a stressed brain. You're not pushing through with a body that's already at capacity. You're clearer, more direct, you're more resourced. And I'll add this: time is a construct. I offer 15-minute mini psychic readings at local markets, and it amazes me how 60 minutes or more of intel can come through in a 15-minute container. When your system is coherent, what's possible expands. If someone only applied one thing from this week's episode, I would want it to be this: become aware of when you're activated, when you're in survival mode, and decide to interrupt the cycle on purpose as a way to regain your personal power. And if you're listening to this and thinking, this makes sense, but I don't know if I could do this consistently, here's what I invite you to try. Ask yourself why you want to do this consistently. And when you get that answer, ask yourself why that's important. And when you get that answer, ask yourself why that is important. Repeat the process 4 or 5 times. Get to the bottom of your why. And then ask yourself, can I trust myself to create coherence consistently for this? If you don't know how to create coherence yet, I offer a 4-week stop-drop Create Coherence video series, a self-led container of evidence-based coherence practices designed to help you come out of survival mode and build a new baseline of regulation and capacity. You can find it at Shaman Time Off under the Stop, Drop, Create Coherence tab. That's ShamanTaima.com under the Stop, Drop, Create Coherence tab.